My mother-in-law secretly tried on my wedding dress, ripped it, then told everyone I was too fat for it anyway. When I confronted her, my husband said I was overreacting, and now the entire family is demanding I apologize to her. I have been married to my husband Nathan for only 6 months, and I'm starting to wonder if I've made a terrible mistake. Before we got married, I thought Nathan was perfect. He's smart, funny, has a great job as a software engineer, and we rarely argued. We met through mutual friends at a birthday party 3 years ago, and it was almost love at first sight. Within 6 months, we were practically living together, and everything seemed magical. But ever since we said I do, I've been seeing a side of him and his family that has me questioning everything. From the beginning, my relationship with my mother-in-law Linda has been challenging. She's a former local beauty pageant queen who never quite got over her glory days and now channels all her energy into micromanaging her son's life. She was widowed when Nathan was only 5, and she's made it clear many times that no woman will ever be good enough for her special boy. I thought once we were married, she'd respect our boundaries and accept me. I was so naive. There were small incidents before the wedding that I should have paid more attention to. When we announced our engagement, Linda accidentally invited her entire bridge club, 12 women I'd never met, to our intimate engagement party without asking, saying she assumed they were welcome since they were practically family. She rearranged our registry items because nobody needs that many kitchen gadgets, deleting the KitchenAid mixer I'd been saving for and adding crystal serving dishes I'll never use. She even tried to change my bridal shower theme because she's allegedly allergic to the color pink and wouldn't be able to attend a pink-themed event. The wedding planning was a complete nightmare. Linda scheduled venue tours without consulting me, then acted hurt when I couldn't attend due to work commitments. During our engagement dinner, she made a toast where she mentioned how excited she was for grandchildren, hopefully within the year, while pointedly looking at my wine glass. I later discovered she'd been sending emails to our wedding planner criticizing my choices, supposedly meant for Nathan, but accidentally CC'd to me. The worst was when she invited 45 additional guests without our permission, telling them they were welcome before even mentioning it to us. Linda also took it upon herself to contact my divorced parents separately about wedding finances, creating unnecessary tension between them after years of civil coexistence. She told extended family members that I had chosen extravagant registry items because I was obviously marrying up for financial reasons. The final straw during planning should have been when she scheduled her hair and makeup trial for the exact same time as mine, then monopolized the stylist with stories about Nathan's childhood. Nathan always told me to let it go because that's just how mom is and she means well. I try to explain how these little boundary violations made me feel, and he'd get this glazed look in his eyes before saying, "You're overreacting, babe. She's excited about us getting married." Now I realize he's been conditioned his entire life to prioritize his mother's feelings over everyone else's, including his own. For our wedding, I wore a gorgeous vintage dress that belonged to my grandmother Ruth. It's a beautiful 1950s lace gown with pearl beading that my grandmother preserved perfectly after her own wedding in 1953. It meant the world to me to wear it on my wedding day. When Linda first saw it at the final fitting, she made this pinched face and said it was quaint, but wouldn't it be nice to have something more modern that flatters your figure better? I ignored her comments and wore it anyway. On our wedding day, Nathan said I looked beautiful, but I caught Linda telling her friends that the dress was showing its age, just like the marriage traditions it represents. She wore a cream-colored dress that photographed almost white in pictures, despite my future sister-in-law Jessica telling her explicitly that it would upset me. During her toast, Linda actually cried about losing her baby boy and told an embarrassing story about how Nathan always needed his mommy when he was sick, glancing pointedly at me. My sister Camille squeezed my hand under the table while guests shifted uncomfortably. Linda also rearranged our reception seating chart without permission, separating me from my college friends and placing Nathan's distant relatives at the head table. She arrived hours early to monopolize our makeup artist, making me run 30 minutes behind schedule. At one point, she accidentally walked by with a glass of red wine, stumbling suspiciously close to my dress before my maid of honor intervened. During the reception, she gave an inappropriate toast about how temporary marriages seem to be these days, with direct reference to my parents' divorce when I was 12. After the wedding, when we were house hunting, Linda insisted we look in her neighborhood, which was completely out of our price range. When we found our beautiful craftsman bungalow 20 minutes away, she cried and complained about never seeing Nathan anymore, despite him having dinner at her house weekly for the past 5 years. Fast forward to last week. We were hosting our first big family dinner at our new home. I'd been planning this dinner for weeks, even taking a cooking class specifically to learn how to make Linda's favorite lasagna despite personally hating ricotta cheese. I researched wine pairings, spent my entire last paycheck on new table settings that matched Linda's aesthetic, and practiced my table arrangement multiple times. I spent 3 full days deep cleaning every corner of the house, even places no one would see, because Linda has a habit of checking for dust on top of door frames. The morning of the dinner, Linda texted that she was running early due to unusually light traffic and would just let herself in to help set up while I was in the shower. Nathan let her in without texting me, violating our agreement about giving me warnings before his family visits. I finished getting ready, excited but nervous about hosting our first family gathering. When I came downstairs at 3:48 p.m., I found she had completely rearranged the table I had already set. She'd swapped my carefully selected autumn-toned placemats for her own cream linen ones she'd brought along, moved my centerpiece to the side table claiming it blocked conversation, and rearranged the seating plan I'd created to put herself next to Nathan and me at the opposite end of the table. In the kitchen, I discovered she'd hidden the homemade appetizers I'd prepared in the back of the refrigerator behind the condiments and put out store-bought ones instead. She'd moved the special wine I'd selected, a Cabernet from the vineyard where Nathan proposed, to the back of the fridge, replacing it with her preferred preferred Chardonnay. And somehow, between her arrival and my coming downstairs, she'd managed to invite 2 additional guests, her bridge club friends who were in the neighborhood, without asking me. I now had to scramble to find extra settings and stretch the food for 2 more people. But what really set alarm bells ringing was noticing several of our displayed photos had been rearranged. Pictures of Nathan and me were now less prominent, replaced by photos of Nathan as a child with his mom that she'd brought with her. Most disturbing of all, I noticed our bedroom door was slightly ajar. I specifically remember closing it before my shower because I had my outfit laid out on the bed and didn't want our cat to get white fur on my black dress. I went to check and noticed my wedding dress preservation box had been moved from the top shelf of our closet to the floor, and the lid wasn't on properly. I immediately felt sick. I only open that box on special occasions to reminisce, and Nathan knows not to touch it. Just last month, on our 6-month anniversary, I had carefully examined the dress, reminiscing about our wedding day, and everything was in perfect condition when I returned it to its preservation box. Call me paranoid, but a few months ago we installed security cameras after a series of break-ins in the neighborhood. I checked the footage on my phone and saw Linda entering our bedroom with a large shopping bag, closing the door, and emerging 15 minutes later without the bag, looking flustered and readjusting her blouse. Her lipstick was smudged and she was smoothing down her hair. The timestamp showed she spent exactly 17 minutes in our bedroom with the door closed. I was stunned. During dinner, I maintained my composure despite growing anxiety about what she'd done with my dress. Linda dominated the conversation with stories about Nathan's childhood that pointedly excluded me. She questioned if my lasagna was fully cooked in the middle and asked if I'd watched a YouTube tutorial to make it. She commented that my wine selection was brave for a beginner and asked when we were planning to start a family before it's too late, while staring pointedly at my wine glass. She shared embarrassing stories about Nathan that clearly made him uncomfortable, including one about his bedwetting issues as a child. At one point, she asked if I remembered Nathan's favorite childhood snack, interrupting me mid-answer to correct me with, "Actually, he's always preferred apple slices with peanut butter, not with caramel like you're thinking of." She also made comments about how I'd filled out since the wedding, and asked if I was still keeping up with that gym membership while offering me a second helping of bread. After dessert, when we were having coffee, I calmly asked Linda if she had been in our bedroom earlier. She immediately got defensive, her smile freezing in place. "I would never invade your privacy like that, Eliza," she said, eyes wide with practiced innocence. "I was just looking for a bathroom. We have a downstairs bathroom that she's used dozens of times, located right off the entryway. When I specifically asked about my wedding dress, she initially denied everything, saying she wouldn't dream of touching my things." Her husband, Robert, suddenly became very interested in his coffee cup, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Jessica straightened in her chair, watching the interaction like a hawk, already looking ready to defend her mother. I then mentioned the security camera, and Linda's face changed completely. She went from defensive to angry in a split second, her cheeks flushing a deep red. "Fine," she snapped. "I was just curious about that dress everyone made such a fuss about. I wanted to see it up close to understand the craftsmanship." She took a sip of water, then added with a venomous smile, "It had a tear in it already, you know, and honestly, it's too small for you anyway. You were practically busting out of it at the wedding. I'm surprised the seams held together for the ceremony." The table went completely silent. Nathan cleared his throat and told me we should discuss this later, that now isn't the time. I could feel tears burning in my eyes but refused to cry in front of this woman. I stared at my hands, which were shaking slightly in my lap. Jessica immediately jumped to Linda's defense, saying she was just being honest and that preservation boxes can damage vintage fabrics anyway. "Mom was probably doing you a favor by checking on it," she added. "You're always so dramatic about everything, Eliza. Remember how you overreacted when Mom reorganized your kitchen cabinets last month?" This was news to me. I hadn't known Linda had been in our kitchen when we weren't home. "I was just trying to see if it could be altered to look more modern for your vow renewal," Linda said, dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. "I thought it might be nice to update it so you wouldn't look so dated in photos." I was trying to help. Robert suddenly remembered an early morning meeting and suggested they should leave. Linda made a big show of being too upset to finish her coffee, while Nathan followed his family outside to their car. I could see through the window as Linda sobbed dramatically on our front lawn while Nathan rubbed her back soothingly. Her 2 bridge club friends exchanged knowing looks and made comments about family drama as they left. When Nathan returned, he immediately accused me of ruining the first family dinner in our new home by attacking his mother. "You know how sensitive she is about feeling included," he said. "She was just curious about the dress. Did you have to confront her in front of everyone?" When they were gone, I went straight to the bedroom and opened the preservation box properly. My heart sank. There was an 8-inch tear along the side seam that definitely wasn't there before, and a smudge of orangey brown makeup on the lace collar. One of the vintage pearl buttons was missing, and the fabric around the waist and hips looked stretched, as if someone larger than me had forced themselves into it. I could even see a long gray hair caught in the lace that exactly matched Linda's color. I called Nathan in to see, but he just sighed and said, "It's an old dress, seems deteriorate, and that stain could be anywhere from the original wedding." He barely glanced at the dress before dismissing my concerns. When I reminded him I had just looked at the dress last month on our 6-month anniversary and there was no damage, he said I was probably too emotional to remember correctly. "You're obsessing over an old dress when you should be focusing on family harmony," he said before going to bed in the spare room, claiming he needed space from the drama. He actually had the nerve to say, "You're just like your mother, always causing scenes," referencing my mom's justified upset when my dad cheated on her years ago. Then he added, "I'm starting to see why my ex Rachel got along so well with mom. She understood family dynamics." After he went to bed, I found the shopping bag Linda had left behind, stuffed under our guest bathroom sink. Inside was a compact of foundation, Warm Sienna number 42, that exactly matched the stain on my dress, a tissue with the same orange-brown makeup on it, her reading glasses, and one of the pearl buttons from my dress caught in a tissue. I took photos of everything and texted them to Nathan, who was already asleep. This morning, I woke up to a group text from Jessica saying I owed their mother an apology for falsely accusing her and creating drama out of nothing. The text included several family members I've only met once or twice. According to Jessica, Linda told everyone she barely touched the dress and found it already damaged, and that I'm trying to blame her for my own carelessness. There were already several replies about how concerned they are about my fixation on material things and my disrespect toward Linda. When Nathan finally saw my text with the photos, he just replied, "This doesn't prove anything. Mom says that makeup is a different shade than what she wears. Can we please just move on?" Then he hit me with a bombshell. He's invited his mother over this weekend to clear the air without even asking me. I'm sitting here in shock. The dress is damaged, I have evidence of who did it, and somehow I'm the villain? Am I crazy for being upset that my mother-in-law destroyed my grandmother's wedding dress and then lied about it? Edit at 6:14 p.m. Just got a text from Nathan saying his mother is coming over whether I like it or not. We'll update when I can. Update. It's been a week since my last post, and things have only escalated. First, thank you to everyone who commented and messaged support. I was beginning to think I was losing my mind, but your responses helped me realize I'm not overreacting. Last Sunday was supposed to be dinner at the in-laws' house, a weekly tradition Nathan has never missed in the 5 years I've known him. I told him I wasn't going. He tried to convince me for nearly an hour, alternating between guilt-tripping, family dinner is important to mom, she made your favorite dessert, and manipulation. If you're not there, everyone will just talk about you anyway. When I stood firm, he switched to the silent treatment, stomping around the house and slamming cabinet doors. I reminded him that his mother had damaged my grandmother's dress and then lied about it, so I wasn't comfortable spending time with her until she acknowledged what she'd done. He told me I was keeping score and that real families forgive each other without conditions. He actually said, "There will be consequences if you keep rejecting the family," though he wouldn't explain what he meant by that. I stood my ground and told him he was welcome to go alone. He went, slamming the door on his way out and giving me the silent treatment before leaving. The petty side of me enjoyed a peaceful evening with a show Linda always criticizes me for watching. Real women don't enjoy crime documentaries, Eliza. While he was gone, I started documenting everything in my notes app. Every boundary violation, every dismissive comment, dates and times as best I could remember. Looking at it all written out was eye-opening. The pattern of Linda's behavior and Nathan's enabling was undeniable. I created separate folders for incidents involving each family member, backed up security footage to a cloud account only I could access, and started recording our conversations on my phone, legal in our state with one-party consent. I called my grandmother Ruth to tell her what happened to the dress. She was upset but more concerned about me than the dress, which made me cry. "Fabric can be fixed, but a broken marriage is harder to repair," she said. Then she shared something I never knew. Her own mother-in-law had tried to sabotage her wedding, including accidentally spilling coffee on her veil the morning of the ceremony. "Some women see their sons' wives as competition instead of family," she told me. "This isn't about a dress, dear. It's about control." I found a specialist who restores vintage clothing and sent photos of the damage. They said repairs would cost around $800, and the makeup stain might never completely come out due to the age and delicacy of the lace. "This damage appears recent and deliberate," the specialist noted in her assessment. "The tension on the seam suggests someone larger tried to wear the garment, and the makeup is fresh enough that it hasn't fully set into the fibers yet." When Nathan came home from dinner, I showed him the estimate and suggested his mother pay half the restoration cost. He looked at me like I had suggested she donate a kidney. "You can't be serious," he said. "It's just a dress. Mom already said she barely touched it." I reminded him about the security footage showing her in our room for 15 minutes. He then admitted he'd already told his mother about the restoration estimate, and she'd denied responsibility again, this time claiming the dress was probably damaged from being stuffed in that box for so long. "Wait," I said, "you discussed this with your mom without telling me?" He had the grace to look embarrassed. I wanted to get her side of the story. "So you showed her the evidence photos I sent you?" "She needed to see what you were accusing her of," he defended. That's when I learned he'd forwarded our private text exchanges to his mother, including ones where I expressed hurt about her behavior. I also discovered a text on his phone from Linda saying, "Don't worry, we'll fix your mistake. She'll be gone soon like the others." When I asked about this, he snatched his phone away and changed his password. The next morning, I woke up to a paragraph-long text from Linda about being disrespected in my son's home and how she's never been treated so poorly by anyone. Her exact words were, "In all my years, I've never been accused of such malicious behavior, especially by someone who claims to love my son. I am deeply hurt that you would think I deliberately damaged something important to you. Clearly, there are issues causing you to lash out at family, and I'm praying for your troubled spirit. Perhaps this is related to your parents' divorce and your fear of commitment. Nathan has told me how anxious you've been lately. This isn't the first time a girl has tried to come between us, but God has a plan for my son with someone who understands family values." That afternoon, Robert called me. He's usually the quiet one who stays out of drama, so I was surprised. He started by saying he's stuck in the middle and just wants peace in the family. He suggested I apologize to Linda to keep the harmony because that's how our family works. We forgive and forget. When I mentioned the dress and the evidence, he sighed and said, "Sometimes being right isn't as important as being family." family. Then he added, Linda hasn't been sleeping or eating properly because of this stress. Her blood pressure is concerning the doctor. Is that what you want for Nathan's mother? I had never heard anything about blood pressure problems before. Later that evening, Robert called again, noticeably slurring his words. Listen, he said, his voice low. I gave up fighting Linda years ago. It's easier for everyone if she gets her way. Nathan knows this. Why are you making waves? Meanwhile, Jessica has been posting on Instagram about toxic people who divide families and knowing who's really there for you when it counts. She hasn't named me, but she included a childhood photo of her, Nathan, and Linda, with the caption, some bonds can't be broken by outsiders. Hashtag family first. Hashtag blood is thicker. She's also been posting throwback photos of Nathan with an ex-girlfriend who Linda approved of, with comments about the one who got away and someone who understood family loyalty. The worst part? Nathan has been sleeping in the spare room for the past 3 nights. Last night, he told me I'm choosing a dress over our marriage, and that I need to figure out what's really important. When I asked if standing up for myself against his mother's lies was important, he just shook his head and said, you don't understand how families work. Yesterday, things took an even darker turn. I found out Linda has been telling extended family members that I have mental health issues and am becoming increasingly paranoid. I discovered a group chat I wasn't included in where Linda had shared links to articles about paranoia and borderline personality disorder, claiming my behavior matched the symptoms. She told everyone I had a history of emotional instability, completely fabricated, and suggested Nathan should document my behavior in case hospitalization becomes necessary. Nathan's aunt texted asking if I'm getting the help I need and offering names of therapists. His cousin asked if my medication dosage had been adjusted recently. I'm not on any medication. Linda's Bridge Club friend dropped off self-help books about managing your emotional health at our house with a condescending note about supporting you through this difficult time. When I confronted Nathan about this, he finally admitted his mother has always been difficult, but said that everyone has learned to adapt, and I need to do the same if I want to be part of the family. He literally told me, you knew what you were marrying into. Mom is part of the package with me. He explained that his family has a whole system for managing mom's reactions and keeping the peace. It's just easier if we let her have her way on small things, he said. Fighting her just makes everything worse for everyone. I asked if he considered my feelings at all in this equation. He had the audacity to say, Mom has been the most important woman in my life for 30 years. You've been around for 3. Who do you think I'm going to prioritize? This morning, while Nathan was at work, Linda showed up at our door unannounced. I saw her through the peephole and chose not to answer. She kept knocking, then called my phone 4 times. I watched through the window as she tried looking through our mail slot and then went around to peer through the kitchen window. She told my neighbor Mrs. Chen that she was worried about Eliza's mental health and that I had been threatening self-harm, completely untrue. At one point, she called the police requesting a wellness check, telling them I was unstable and not answering my phone. When officers arrived, I had to explain the situation, showing them I was perfectly fine. Linda created a scene in the front yard, telling anyone who would listen that I was turning her son against her and refusing family help during a mental health crisis. She remained in our driveway for nearly 2 hours, making calls to family members and creating a spectacle. I texted Nathan about it and he said I was being childish by not letting her in, that she probably just wanted to smooth things over. You're making a big deal out of nothing, he texted. I called my sister Camille in tears, and she's coming to stay with me for a few days for moral support. She's a psychology professor and immediately recognized the manipulation tactics at play. When I told Nathan, he accused me of involving outsiders in family business and said this would only make his mother more upset. Camille has always been hostile toward my family, he said, though they've only met 3 times. She's turning you against us, he texted later. I'm not coming home until she leaves. I feel like I'm living in some alternate reality where setting basic boundaries makes me the villain. I'm starting to wonder if this is what the rest of my life will look like if I stay in this marriage. Edit 11:32 p.m. I just checked our security camera app and saw something that made my blood run cold. There are several clips missing from last week, including footage from the day of our dinner party. More details in next update. Update 2. It's been 2 weeks since my last update and I honestly don't even know where to begin. Everything has completely imploded. 3 days after my sister Camille arrived to stay with us, which already had Nathan fuming about taking sides, I discovered something that made my blood run cold. I was going through our security footage from the past month to document Linda's dress incident for the restoration specialist when I noticed several clips had been deleted, specifically from the day of our dinner party. When I asked Nathan about it, he got defensive immediately, which is always a red flag. After pressing him, he finally admitted that his mother had asked him to delete the unflattering footage of her in our bedroom to put this whole thing behind us. I was stunned. So you erased evidence that would prove I'm not making this up? It's not like that, Nathan said, not meeting my eyes. Mom was embarrassed about how she looked on camera. She just wanted to move forward. That led to our biggest fight yet. Nathan was getting increasingly agitated as I questioned him, and in the heat of the argument, he let slip that his mother actually has a key to our house, something I never knew. Apparently, he gave it to her for emergencies before we even moved in. When I asked how many times she'd used it, he avoided answering directly, saying only that she sometimes drops by to help out when we're not home. What kind of help? I asked, my stomach sinking. You know, organizing things, bringing groceries, checking on the place, he mumbled. I felt violated all over again. I asked if he realized how inappropriate it was for his mother to enter our home without permission. His response? She's just trying to help. You're being paranoid. She's rearranged a few things to be more efficient and brought groceries sometimes. How is that a bad thing? Digging deeper, I discovered Linda had been in our house at least 6 times when we were both at work. She'd rearranged my closet, putting my favorite clothes to the back and more flattering options, her words according to Nathan, at the front. She'd replaced my skincare products with brands she preferred because because mine were too harsh for aging skin. She'd even reorganized our kitchen cabinets and labeled food with helpful expiration stickers. Most disturbing of all, I found several of our wedding photos had been subtly rearranged to feature Linda more prominently, and one photo of just me and Nathan had been moved from the bedside table to a drawer. She'd also left a handwritten note in my lingerie drawer about more appropriate styles for your body type with a gift card to a store that caters to much older women. But the absolute worst discovery came when Camille noticed something strange about our bedroom air freshener. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be a hidden nanny cam disguised as an air freshener, one I'd never purchased. When we checked the packaging in the trash, it had Linda's name on the Amazon shipping label. She had been secretly watching us in our own bedroom. I also noticed my birth control pills seemed out of order in their pack, with some possibly missing. When I mentioned this to Nathan, he actually said, "Mom thinks we should start a family sooner rather than later. She's not getting any younger and she wants to be an active grandmother." That night, after Nathan went to work, he sometimes works late shifts, I called a locksmith and had all our locks changed. I also added a smart lock that keeps a log of when it's used. I took my grandmother's dress to Camille's house for safekeeping, along with a few other sentimental items and important documents. I wasn't taking any chances. The next day, I made an emergency appointment with a therapist, not because I believe Linda's claims about my mental health, but because I needed an objective third party to tell me if I'm overreacting. The therapist validated my concerns and helped me see the pattern of boundary violations and gaslighting. "What you're describing sounds like a textbook case of emotional manipulation and narcissistic family dynamics," she said. "The fact that you're questioning your own reality is exactly what gaslighting is designed to do." After the session, I sent Linda a formal text requesting $800 for the dress restoration, with a detailed explanation of the damage and the specialist's assessment. I was calm, factual, and firm. I ended by saying I would be willing to discuss this in person with a mediator present if she preferred, and warned that any further unauthorized entry to our home would result in trespassing charges. Her response was a single word: ridiculous. I also told Nathan that if he couldn't establish basic boundaries with his mother and stand up for our marriage, I would need to consider a separation. This wasn't an idle threat. Camille had already offered her spare room if needed. "You're overreacting," Nathan said, his voice cold. "This is what families do. They help each other. They're involved in each other's lives. You're just not used to having a close family." "Close families don't install hidden cameras in bedrooms," I replied. "They don't damage each other's property and then lie about it." "Mom was just trying to make sure you weren't bad-mouthing her when I wasn't around," he said, as if that made the surveillance normal. "And she wouldn't have needed to if you were more accepting of her help." That's when I noticed Nathan's phone recording our conversation. When I asked about it, he admitted his mother had suggested he keep records of my outbursts in case they were needed later. That was the final straw. "I want your mother's key returned and the nanny cam removed today," I said. "Either your mother keeps her key or I move out. Your choice." The next afternoon, I was working from home when I heard someone trying to get in the front door. Through the window, I could see Linda repeatedly trying her key, looking increasingly frustrated. Then she started pounding on the door, yelling my name. I didn't answer but texted Nathan that his mother was creating a scene. She stayed on our porch for nearly 30 minutes, alternating between calling my phone, pounding on the door, and peering through windows. My neighbor Mrs. Chen came out to ask if everything was okay, and I heard Linda telling her I was emotionally unstable and refusing to let family help me. At one point, she was literally yelling, "She's turned my son against me. She's trying to steal him away. She needs medication." I recorded some of this through the window, shaking the entire time. When she finally left, I had missed 3 work calls and had to make up an excuse about internet problems to my boss. Within an hour, my phone was blowing up. Nathan's entire family was messaging in a group chat, calling me disrespectful, paranoid, and manipulative for changing the locks. Jessica wrote that I had finally shown my true colors and that they had tried to welcome me despite their reservations. Robert, who I thought might be somewhat reasonable, texted that I was causing his wife unnecessary stress during her high blood pressure issues and that I would regret making an enemy of Linda. Then Nathan came home. I've never seen him so angry. His face was red, and he was practically shaking as he demanded to know why I changed the locks without discussing it with him. I pointed out that he had given his mother a key without discussing it with me, which was worse. The argument escalated until he punched a hole in our living room wall and started packing a bag, throwing clothes haphazardly into his gym duffel. "I'm going to stay with my parents until you grow up and learn how family works," he said, zipping the bag with unnecessary force. He started grabbing shared belongings, our iPad, the good wireless headphones, and even jewelry he had given me. When I objected, he said, "I paid for these things. They're mine." Before he left, he said something that keeps replaying in my mind. "You came into this family, not the other way around. You adapt to us, not us to you. There will be consequences for this, Eliza." It's been 4 days, and Nathan has only communicated through cold, practical texts about mail and bills. Meanwhile, his family's campaign against me has intensified. I've turned off notifications from most of them, but Camille has shown me some of Jessica's social media posts, which are getting increasingly personal and nasty. Yesterday, she posted about women who trap men through marriage only to reveal their true nature, with a thinly veiled reference to me. I've also discovered that Linda has joined several community Facebook groups in our area and has been telling neighbors and local businesses that I'm having a mental health crisis. I was approached by the barista at my regular coffee shop asking if I was doing okay after everything, though she wouldn't elaborate on what she'd heard. Most concerning, I found out Linda has somehow connected with 2 of my ex-boyfriends on social media and has been messaging them about my concerning behavior and asking for background on my mental health history. One of them, who I dated briefly in college, actually reached out to warn me that she was asking strange questions. I'm writing this from my car because I don't feel safe in my own home anymore. I never thought my marriage would implode over a wedding dress, but I'm starting to see this was never really really about the dress at all. It was about control, boundaries, and a man who never really left his mother's household emotionally. Final update. It's been almost a month since my last update, and while I wish I could say things have improved, the reality is quite different. But amid the chaos, I'm starting to find small moments of clarity and strength. A week after Nathan left to stay with his parents, I received a letter from a lawyer representing Linda for claims of emotional distress and defamation. The letter demanded I issue a public apology to her on social media and pay $2,000 for therapy she has required due to my harassment. The letter included an itemized list of Linda's damages, including $650 for spiritual counseling sessions, $450 for anti-anxiety medication, $300 for a medical-grade blood pressure monitor, and $600 for lost wages from her part-time job at a church gift shop due to stress-induced absences. The letter mentioned further legal consequences if I didn't comply within 10 days, vaguely referencing potential criminal harassment charges. My first reaction was to laugh. It seemed so absurd. My second reaction was panic. I called my own lawyer the same day, who confirmed the letter was mostly posturing but advised me to document everything and not respond directly to Linda. This isn't from a real litigation attorney, my lawyer said. It's likely from a friend who has some legal background. Notice there's no law firm letterhead, just a generic legal services header. Meanwhile, the family campaign against me has reached new heights. Nathan texted that his family is considering an intervention for my increasingly erratic behavior. His exact words were, "Everyone is worried about your mental state. If you just apologize and try to make amends, we can get you the help you need." I later discovered they had actually contacted my estranged father, whom I haven't spoken to in years, asking about family history of mental illness. My father, to his credit, told him to leave me alone and then called to warn me about what was happening. It was the first civil conversation we've had in nearly a decade. The voicemails from extended family have been relentless. Nathan's aunt called to tell me I'm destroying a family that has been harmonious for generations. His cousin messaged saying I should think about someone besides yourself for once. Jessica has taken to posting not-so-subtle references to me on her Instagram stories. Some people will never understand the meaning of family loyalty, and watching someone you love be manipulated is the worst feeling. She's also been posting photos of Nathan with captions like "staying strong despite betrayal" and "family always comes first" #Team Nathan. I've had to block her on all platforms for my own mental health. The situation got even more serious when I discovered Nathan had withdrawn half of our joint savings account, about $8,500, without discussing it with me. When confronted via text, he said he needed to protect his assets because he didn't know what I might do next. I immediately moved my direct deposit to a new account in only my name and started monitoring our credit reports daily. I discovered he had also changed the passwords to our shared investment accounts and removed me as an authorized user on our main credit card. I was hit with several unexpected bills for accounts I didn't even know existed. Apparently, Nathan had opened a line of credit in both our names last year that he'd been using without my knowledge. I also found out I had been removed from our car insurance policy without notice, leaving me temporarily uninsured. The worst incident happened last Wednesday. I came out to find my car had been keyed along both sides, with the word "liar" scratched into the passenger door. I have no proof it was anyone from Nathan's family, but the timing is suspicious at best, coming the day after I rejected Linda's demand letter. The police took a report but warned me that without witnesses or camera footage, there's not much they can do. I've since installed a doorbell camera that covers my parking space. I've also noticed Linda's gray SUV driving past our house multiple times a day. I've started logging each appearance with timestamps. Last week, I received a flower delivery with a card that read, "Thinking of you during your mental health journey. Recovery is possible." There was no signature, but the passive-aggressive tone was unmistakable. Several packages delivered to my porch have mysteriously disappeared, including important paperwork from my lawyer. My neighbor's security camera caught a woman who looked suspiciously like Linda approaching my door when I wasn't home, though the footage is too grainy to be conclusive. The mail carrier mentioned that someone had been asking about putting a hold on my mail delivery, which I never requested. All of this stress has started affecting my work. My boss, Marcus, called me in to ask if everything was okay after I missed a deadline and seemed distracted in meetings. I gave him a vague explanation about family issues, but I'm worried about my job security if this continues. He was surprisingly understanding and has allowed me some flexibility with my schedule, but I know I need to get my performance back on track. I've been through a divorce myself, Marcus confided. I know how it can consume every aspect of your life. Just let me know how I can help. On my lawyer's advice, I've started formal separation proceedings. I never thought I'd be consulting a divorce attorney 6 months into my marriage, but here we are. The lawyer is helping me protect my finances and property while we determine next steps. We're documenting the timeline of events, gathering evidence of harassment, and preparing for the possibility of a restraining order if things escalate further. The legal fees are creating additional financial strain, but my grandmother has offered to help. I've been saving for a rainy day, she told me, and honey, it's pouring right now. I also started seeing a therapist weekly. In our sessions, I've begun recognizing patterns of emotional manipulation that I normalized not just with Nathan and his family, but in previous relationships too. I've always been a people pleaser, afraid of conflict, and eager for approval, traits that made me a perfect target for someone like Linda. It's painful to realize how much I've allowed my boundaries to be violated in the name of keeping the peace. My therapist has helped me see how my parents' divorce when I was 12 left me with abandonment issues that made me vulnerable to Nathan's love bombing early in our relationship. I was so desperate to belong to a real family that I ignored warning signs that would have sent me running in any other context. As for my grandmother's dress, the restoration specialist said they can repair the tear, but the makeup stain will likely never come out completely. It breaks my heart, but my grandmother reminded me that that, the dress served its purpose. It was worn with love twice. She's more concerned about me than the dress, saying, "Possessions can be replaced, but your well-being cannot." We've decided to use some of the undamaged lace to create a small keepsake bag for carrying future brides something borrowed or blue. That way, Grandma Ruth said, something good can come from this mess. Despite all this darkness, there have been small glimmers of light. Camille has been my rock, staying with me through the worst of it and reminding me that I'm not crazy. Her background in psychology has helped me identify the manipulation tactics being used against me. Several friends have formed a protective circle around me, taking turns checking in and keeping me company so I'm not alone with my thoughts too much. My best friend Zoe, who Linda managed to push away during our engagement, has reconnected with me and apologized for not being more supportive. "I should have told you what I saw," she said. "Linda deliberately excluded me from events and told me you were too busy to see me. I believed her instead of checking with you directly." My coworker Marcus has been unexpectedly supportive after witnessing Linda's wellness check at our office. He connected me with his sister-in-law, who happens to be a family attorney, which saved me thousands in legal consultation fees. He's also been bringing me coffee on rough mornings and covering for me when I need to take calls from my lawyer. I've started reclaiming my space too. I rearranged the furniture in the living room, something Linda had always criticized, and painted an accent wall the exact shade of pink she called juvenile and tacky. I've rehung our photos the way I want them, with focus on Nathan and me as a couple rather than featuring his family prominently. I've replaced the bedding Linda selected with a style I actually like. I swept the house for any additional hidden cameras and changed all the Wi-Fi and smart home passwords. I've also removed the helpful expiration stickers Linda placed on everything in my refrigerator and pantry. I threw out all the skincare products she replaced mine with and ordered my preferred brands again. It's petty, maybe, but it feels like taking back control in small ways. The most unexpected support came from Nathan's cousin Ellie, who reached out privately to say she believes me. She confided that Linda has a history of similar behavior and that many family members enable her to avoid becoming targets themselves. According to Ellie, I'm the third serious girlfriend of Nathan's that Linda has targeted. The others eventually gave up and left. One woman actually moved to another state to get away from Linda's harassment. "She did the same thing to me when I married my husband," Ellie said. "She told everyone I was a gold digger because Ben didn't go to college. She showed up at our apartment unannounced, rearranged our furniture, and criticized everything from my cooking to my weight. Ben finally stood up to her, and we've been limited to holidays-only contact ever since." Ellie even offered to provide a statement if legal proceedings require it, though she's terrified of Linda finding out. "The family will disown me," she said, "but I can't watch her do this to someone else." I've started journaling every night, documenting my feelings and the events of each day. It's helping me see the manipulation tactics more clearly, the way they twist reality, use group pressure, and exploit my desire to be accepted. Looking back at early entries, I can see how much stronger I've become in just a few weeks. Last night, I had my first genuine laugh in months while having dinner with Camille and two close friends. For a brief moment, I forgot about the drama and just enjoyed being with people who value me. It was a small thing, but it felt like a glimpse of what life could be on the other side of this nightmare. The holidays are approaching, and I'm facing them without the family I thought I'd be celebrating with. My therapist has helped me make a self-care plan for the difficult days ahead, and I'm planning to volunteer at a local shelter on Thanksgiving to keep busy. Camille has invited me to join her for Christmas, and for the first time in weeks, I'm actually looking forward to something. I still get moments of doubt and heartache. I still wake up reaching for Nathan sometimes, forgetting for a blissful second what's happened between us. I still have days where the thought of starting over feels overwhelming, but I'm also discovering a strength I didn't know I had. I don't know if my marriage will survive this hurricane, and honestly, I'm not sure it should. What I do know is that I'm finally putting myself first after years of shrinking to make everyone else comfortable. The storm is still raging around me, with new threats and accusations arriving daily, but for the first time, I've found small moments of calm at the center. Thank you to everyone who helped me see that I'm not crazy for wanting basic respect. I'll update if anything major happens, but right now, I'm focused on rebuilding my life one boundary at a time.